Great. So hi, Laura.
Hi.
I'm really honored that you said yes to being here with me in this conversation around how has the TOSA method supported you in all of what it offers. Obviously, the steps, the layers, the one-on-ones, the group sessions, the retreats that you've really taken in the TOSA method in many different ways. And I would love to hear how it's impacted you.
Oh, it's impacted pretty much every area of my life, I think. Yeah, so just a little background. I gave up drinking alcohol about 4 years ago, and when I did that, it really made me aware of how much I'd been suppressing emotionally, and how much of my emotional awareness was just intellectualized and not really felt. So yeah, I've been on a bit of a journey into feeling those feelings. And yeah, the TOSA method has really been pretty instrumental in helping me to not only just feel those feelings, but also just kind of understand them a bit more, and just really feel really truly supported in that expression as well. So yeah, it's been a really beautiful experience so far.
Wonderful. And I remember in level 1 you articulating that that about intellectualizing the emotions versus really feeling them. And I'm curious whether you want to share about a particular experience through level 1, or whether it's just what has this experience of just really meeting your emotions, really being able to process them in real time, learning how to unravel them and understand them and receive from them. How is that impacted?
So early in level 1, I think it was the second week, was when I was supporting my mum through the passing of my nana. So she'd been unwell for some time, but she took a turn for the worse just as we started level 1. And I think it was the second week. I'd been by my nana's side for probably 4 nights, I think 4 days and 4 nights with my mum. And we had one of the Thursday night sessions, and the breath work was just so powerful. I just had this, I was just really excuse me, I was just really aware of I was just so grateful for my breath, and I was also super aware of the fact that my nana was about to take her last. And that kind of real joy for life and like gratitude for this life-giving force, with like kind of contrasting with the grief of knowing that I was going to lose her and hers, was so intense.
Yeah.
But it was really powerful. It was really beautiful. And being able to release a lot of that grief for her death before it even happened was really incredible, because it made me able to be super present to what was happening, and really be able to show up for my mum, and really just be there for the rest of the process. If you'd asked me beforehand, I think that I would have been much more like, I don't know if I would have known that I would be able to do it in that sort of way. So yeah, that was really incredible. experience.
And I often write about presence and talk about holding space, and that there's really, in my mind, 4 times that we really need to have space held for us. And that is when we're children. That's when we're going through some traumatic event, when we're mothers, if we're, if we're women, and when we are on our deathbed. And, by being held yourself to process those emotions, showing up in presence for, your nan, and then also your mom, is just such a powerful gift. Like, it just really touches me deeply, to even just the thought of that.
Well, thank you, because it was really, it was really incredible to just feel that embodied kind of really feel the emotions moving through my body, and really be able to feel them, and then release them, and then be able to go back to my nana's bedside and just feel it all, feel the joy and the gratitude for her life, and also the really deep grief that she was about to pass. And it was just really profound. So
And thank you for sharing that here with me and with everyone who's listening, because that time for many people is really hard. I nursed my mom for a year-long process, and I am very grateful to have had all of these tools of the TOSA method to really hold someone through that process. And I remember my mom commenting on that as well.
I think it was I'd been feeling, I think, fairly disconnected from my nana. She had Alzheimer's, so I would go and visit her quite fairly frequently, and I think she knew that we were safe, but I don't think she didn't know who we were. So it was really nice to feel really connected to her again, just for the last time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Taking a breath to that connection that is available for all of us, whether we're going through a really challenging experience, whether there's someone that is going through the dying process, whether someone's already passed, that we really have the capacity, if we're held with the right tools and the right support, to meet those levels of emotions and be able to receive from them, because there's so much that we can receive. It seems counterintuitive, when we feel really challenged to even meet those emotions, but there is so much that wants to open to be received and understood through that. So
I think as well, we're so quick to label emotions as good and bad, and obviously grief is one of those ones that's bad, and and really allowing yourself to feel it, because ultimately grief is just love with nowhere to go, isn't it? So it's being able to connect to that side of it is really, really powerful. It's actually really kind of transformed my experience of death and my the way I feel about it. And it's really
and in level 1 and all the way through, you've probably heard me say many, many times that when we suppress our sadness, or we stuff our anger, or we run from any kind of pain, we're actually running, stuffing, and avoiding love, because they really are one and the same. And you've heard me say so many times, the Rumi quote, the wound is where the light enters. So we can really meet those challenging, be supported in how to really process, how to really integrate, how to really meet those emotions, and receive so much from them. Yeah. So again, thank you for sharing that with everyone. Is there any, is there, I know that you've also moved in, so you came to the Awakening Through Trauma retreat in Barcelona, and you're now part of the facilitation team and about to connect in Mexico for the level 3. And I just wondered if there's anything more that you'd want to share about the TOSA method and all of it.
I think it's the conscious support, the really like being held and being seen, and just the power of really being truly vulnerable and showing your, like, well, I kind of consider like the uglier parts of like the human like experience, and to just be really witnessed in those and really just accepted for them. And that in Spain, that was really really powerful, and I'm really looking forward to kind of experiencing that from a slightly different angle as well, like being more of the being there to be the support as well as being witnessed.
Beautiful. And I often say what we're fighting, others are fighting too. And yet all of us crave to be seen and to be loved and to be held exactly as we are, sometimes in our messiness and, and sometimes in our radiance. Some people hide their radiance, for fear of being seen. Some people hide their messiness, and yet we all crave just to see. And I, out of those steps of the TOSA method, and conscious support being one of them, I think it's essential, because we can learn some of the conscious practices, the 3 conscious practices, anywhere, but without the combination of those rest of those steps, it just doesn't have the same impact. And it's one of the ones that I feel has probably impacted me the most, probably because I grew up with some of those conscious practices, so they were just part of me. But that conscious support,
it's really liberating. The things that you've, like, to allow somebody else to see the things that you've judged about yourself for so long, and for them to not react in the way that you expect or like kind of project, is like really incredibly liberating.
And I probably hear that more times than not, that the support and the being witnessed is one of the most liberating pieces. And it's just something that is brought into everything that I do. And even people can't help but be drawn to it, even if they start off the training with, oh, I can't be seen, and doing everything that they can to hold back. There's just so much that goes on in the one-on-one sessions and the group, that eventually they're starting to experience the liberation through all of it.
It's really powerful to just witness as well, and to hear other people's expressions of themselves too, because it's so, like, you can just resonate with so much of it, and then as soon as someone says something, you're like, oh my god, I do that too, or then it just completely unravels, and you're just like, oh my god, we're all just messy humans acting things from each other, when really we're all really similar and the same. And
and when we come to this place of really experiencing our sameness, because we're similar and the same in the messiness, but we're similar and the same in the fact that we aren't our messiness. And so, as I always say, like that equal loving embrace of all of it, and we can really see. And when we can really see another, we can really see ourselves. And when we really see ourselves, we can really see another. And that's that point of connection. And it's just yummy. It's such a beautiful thing. Yeah.
it's definitely raising my standards of like how I want to be met and how I like want to meet as well
Yeah.
in that way. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really enabled me as well to like really lean into like more difficult like situations or conversations in like my relationships that perhaps I would have avoided before. And with that kind of leaning in and being more present to those things, it's really made me become quite viscerally aware of when I am avoiding or numbing. So recognizing that although I cut out alcohol, you know, there's always like our brains want to go somewhere else to kind of find that comfort. And I've noticed that when I pick up my phone, if it started off quite subconsciously, I'd pick up my phone if I was feeling some discomfort. And I used to not notice that I was doing it or that it was helping numb that. And now when I do it, I can like, I'll pick my phone up and I can literally feel it, the discomfort drain out of my body. And then I can't get that discomfort back. And it's quite interesting that I almost want it back so that I can sit with it. So it sounds a bit like masochistic, but but no, like I'm like, oh damn, that was a missed opportunity. And it's really interesting to see how like those things can really in the moment really really quickly numb you out. And it's really powerful to recognize that, because I don't want to numb out anymore. I want to feel it all. I really want to be present with myself and what is causing that discomfort.
Yeah, really beautiful, really celebrating that. It's, you know, in the Vedic tradition, peace is the highest emotion, and there's sort of a sense of peace or a comfort in meeting the discomfort when we know how, when we've built a container, when we have the right tools. There's such a, you know, and all obstacles and challenges are divine opportunities for growth, for knowing ourselves that much more intimately and deeply. And so, yeah, really, really celebrating what you just shared and your ability.
Yeah, I think it is that discomfort that we avoid so with so many ways and so frequently. It's actually, it obviously it gets to a point where it's more uncomfortable to avoid it than to actually just feel it. And I think that's been quite a liberating thing, that those emotions that we label as bad and we don't want to feel, so we push them away or we numb them out, or we just do anything to not feel them. Actually, sometimes it actually feels quite good to feel them, even if they are like bad, quote unquote, because they just, once you felt them, they've just moved through and they're not there just all around you, kind of weighing on you anymore. So
it's you know, emotions only take about 90 seconds to move through, right? And we're hardwired to move through them. It takes actually a lot of effort in the numbing and the distraction and the voiding and the blaming and, you know, the projecting of all of our stuff. There's a lot of effort that is there, and that when we can really meet to them and utilize them, there's so much to receive. You know, the shame isn't the gift, the anger isn't the gift, the pain isn't the gift, but there is something there to receive. So,
and as soon as you can feel them as well, you can take much more responsibility for those feelings, for because it's you feeling them, right? So you're bringing that to any given situation, and if you're numbing them or like not avoiding them, you're kind of living in this just like unconscious like way of moving through the world, and you can very easily slip into victim mode or into blame and all of that kind of stuff. And actually, when you're more acutely aware of what you're feeling, you're much more able to recognize when you are in that sort of paradigm really. And yeah, you can just really take responsibility for how you show up and how you, what you bring to relationships.
And what a powerful and empowering place to be. And that first step of the TOSA method is conscious ownership. That radical responsibility, and with that comes a lot of feeling empowered.
Yeah, it is quite uncomfortable to have to meet that, but yeah, it is liberating, and it just takes so much pressure off. Actually, in the end, you're just like, oh, okay, that was all me.
Yeah, well, I mean, any victim narrative locks in a sense of powerlessness. So they might be really uncomfortable to meet those parts, but if we really want to break that cycle of that victim narrative and that powerless experience in meeting life or situations, and it really is the only path. Yeah,
it's really interesting, because even just in small experiences of my life, like that, being able to kind of see that things as happening for you rather than to you is like super fun in a way. I think my van broke down. Well, it like nearly set on fire on the motorway as I was driving somewhere, and I pulled across 3 lanes of traffic to like get onto the hard shoulder, and there was smoke billowing up like out of the bonnet. I managed to get out and took my keys out of the ignition and got my phone. And I started to ring the fire brigade, and then suddenly this fireman came through the smoke, and I was just like, and I looked up on it, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, "I think so. There's still this smoke coming." And I just looked at him and went, "Everything is always working out for me." And he was like, "What? Your van's on nearly on fire." And I was just like, "Yeah, but you're here already." And there'd been a fire engine like just driving behind me and seeing what had happened, and they just pulled up. And it, like the entire experience of that, of like my van like literally nearly breaking down, was like just completely turned around, because every single part of it, I could see that it was, like it was all fine. And and then the ripple effect of me kind of being that way with like the guy who came to tow me home, I said it again to him, and he was just like, "It's a really weird thing to say, like, hasn't your trip to Scotland been completely skewered?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but look at all these like reasons why it like actually worked out fine, like the van's actually not broken down completely, it's not a write-off, I'm okay, like like you got to me within 45 minutes, there was a fire engine there." And he was just like, "Oh, that's a really good way of looking at it." And I was just like, yeah, it is. And then I was like, oh, quite proud of myself for that, because could have been such a different experience of that whole scenario. You've just been like, "Oh, this always happens," and "Oh my god, I can't get to Scotland," and like all the ways that I could have just gone into victim mode. And it was just, it was really interesting to be able to just step out of that and have a bit of fun with, like, how is this happening for me kind of situation. So.
Really thank you for sharing that story. I haven't heard you share that before, so I really appreciate that. And there's so much juiciness in it, and and it's that ability, through these teachings and methods and the practices and the conscious support. That 5th step is conscious surrender, right? So like when we're really doing the work, when we're able to meet the emotions and process them and receive from the moment, and just how it impacts our way of being in the world, then we can be in situations, because life is going to be filled with challenges and obstacles along our path. And it's a special skill set, it's a special way of being, to be able to meet those and use them instead of being trapped by them or reacting to them. You responded.
And you can see the ripple effect just in people that you don't know in situations like that. because it prompted a really interesting conversation on the way back, you know, with the RAC guy, and it was just really, that was a really nice point of connection as well. Whereas, like, you know, if I'd been all stressed in on myself, I might have been on my phone the whole way back and not really talking. And just relation in my personal relationships as well. Like, I can see when things are mirrored back to me, I'm just like, oh, like, that's because I did that, and it just feels really good, to be able to just deepen my connections.
Yeah, beautiful. You know, at first it's steps and it's layers and it's these teachings and this support and this practice, but it becomes a way of being, a way of living, as I always say. And, you know, I'm just really acknowledging you for being the courageous step that it takes, because it's not easy work, but to really implement all of it and to be held through it, it allows us to show up for ourselves, show up for others, and show up for life and all that it brings. Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you. Would there be anything else that you would want to say about the TOSA method and this work as we wrap it up?
I just wish that everyone had access to this sort of experience of, like, how to meet themselves and how to, it's really powerful. And I'm really, really, really grateful that I have connected with you, and I've committed to showing up for myself in this way, because it's really having a profound impact on my life.
Beautiful. Such an honor. Thank you for, well, first of all, just being you and implementing these, but really grateful for you to be here in this interview and sharing your story with whoever might be listening.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Mexico.
Yeah, me too. A few weeks.